fell in the first quarter as labor costs rose at their quickest pace in a year. There's also weak employment data today. ADP says private payrolls only added 169,000 jobs last month, far below the 200,000 that economists had expected. The FCC is pressing the cable industry to resist the temptation to use its growing dominance as internet providers to protect its cable business. Chairman Tom Wheeler told an industry trade show in Chicago that more competition would be better. Real Madrid is the world's most valuable soccer club for the third year in a row. That's according to a new Forbes poll. Tanya Hansen, CNBC Radio.
There is something about the road that beckons, that invites us to pack up the family and leave the world behind. And there is something about an industry-leading unlimited mileage warranty on a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz that gives us the freedom to do exactly that. You take to the highway, rack up the miles for up to 3 years, and drive with the assurance that your Mercedes-Benz is covered. You have the security of being in a car that has been certified to Mercedes-Benz standards, while you enjoy a carefree ownership experience for miles and miles. But while the mileage is unlimited, your time to take advantage of our certified pre-owned sales event is not. Now through June 1st, you can also receive complimentary prepaid maintenance and your first 2 months payments on us on select models, plus 3 months of Sirius XM satellite radio. So hurry into your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer today and see why we say the odometer is there to record the memories.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for complete details and limitations on certified pre-owned warranties.
It gets real, it's live, it's really live, local and in motion. Every day on KCAA, the Inland Empire's only live local motion talk. KCAA 1050 AM and KCAAradio.com.
Inland Empire weather, variable high clouds until Saturday. Chance of rain by Friday. Highs today, 68. I don't think so. We're at about 67 right now and going to drop down to about 54 overnight. Looking at your freeway conditions, stop and go traffic on the 91 eastbound between the 71 and Auto Center Drive. Also into Corona, the 91 eastbound is slow from the 241 to the 15. And also in Ontario, the 15 southbound between the 10 freeway and Harupa Street is a little bit slow in that area. Also Ontario southbound, slow from the 10 to the 60. And an accident has cleared on the 60 eastbound just before Vineyard, but it is still going to be a little bit slow in that area, so beware of that. That is the very latest with weather and traffic on the station that leaves no listener behind. KCAA 1050 AM.
If you're like most, your trust in traditional financial advice has taken a big hit in the last few years. So when it comes to your money, investment, and retirement planning, where do you turn now? Who do you listen to? Join us for Smart Money Talk Radio, Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. for the refreshing, straightforward money and investment strategies of Jim and Lorraine Conaway. With over 44 years of combined experience, the Conaways are here to educate you on how to be smart with your money. Securities offered through J.P. Turner & Company, LLC. Member SIPC. Do
you have a broken window or rock chip on your vehicle that needs repair? Give us a call at HM Auto Glass, 951-858-5190. HM Auto Glass is your locally owned and operated auto glass specialist, offering low cost and high quality auto glass repair and replacement. We also work with all major insurance companies and offer free mobile service. So call us, 951-858-5190. That number again is 951-858-5190.
Controlled? Well, maybe. Chaos? Definitely. Tune in weekday mornings, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. for Controlled Chaos with Gary Garver, Jigga, Dave, and Mary Tonga. KCAA 1050 AM. You have to hear it to believe it.
Greetings, salutations. Welcome to KCAA Radio 1050 on your AM radio dial. This is What's It All About? Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel. I hope that today we have some interesting things to talk about and we will educate you in certain areas. Dr. J should be calling in a few minutes, and we have a guest that I found to be quite interesting, which we'll talk to also for a while during the show. So One of the things that I wanted to bring up was I got a letter from a gentleman who asked a question that I want to answer on the air. And that question was, what is your opinion, meaning my opinion, of death? What is my opinion of death? And I can only imagine that that person must have heard a lecture that I gave or some recording or something that he heard me talk about life and death. And so I want to answer that question. I think it's a very good question. I also think the question is one that should interest every single one of us. My opinion of death is really based on the original teachings of the early church and the early teachings of Jesus coming from the Aramaic language. And that is that life is eternal. Life is eternal. Well, we have a problem in understanding this life and death situation because we look mostly at life being life on earth. And in the context, the reality of the context of it, it is not. Life is when we experience consciousness and awareness and life. And that is a non-physical thing as well as a physical thing. So I'm saying that life is eternal, that we have a body that we use for a little while. And to me, it seems logical that pure spirit, that is probably not so able to really experience the material physical world very well without the tools, because the tool is a body. The tools are senses, the capabilities of perceiving the realities that are in front of us. So we have these senses in the body that help us do this. So that we have a body for a little while. And that body is a tool, just like a car is a tool to you or to me or to anybody who uses it. You can do with a car what you cannot do without it. A car is a thing, like all things that exist in the physical world. So far, none of these things last forever. The body is one of those things, and the body comes and does its thing and makes its contribution, helps us to further experience life in the physical realm, experience life emotion to motion, all the things that have to do with that kind of thing. And then the body goes away. That doesn't affect life. It affects the body. So I do not believe that we die, meaning go out of existence. I believe that we just drop the body. Body's finished, body's gone. And we don't quite understand that. And I have a little story, if we have some time at the end of the show, I'll tell. It's the dragonfly story, and it really makes a lot of sense. And if not, I'll tell it the next show, next Wednesday. So that answers the letter. And if anybody has any comments, they can always call in and ask further questions. And remember, these are my opinions. These are derived from my knowledge of what I've studied over the years, and I've studied an awful lot. I went to school, actually, until I was 49 years old. Not meaning that I was a professional student and did nothing else. I did a lot of things. I had many careers already, but I went officially to school till I was 49 years old. And now I go to school when I feel I need a pop in the arm or in the brain on education. Okay, is Dr. J around? Is he online today?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. J. Greetings.
Hey, greetings. Can everybody hear me?
Well, I think the whole world can hear you, yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You are really something, because the question I'm going to ask you about is right in line what you just did. Boy, I'll tell you, you're really something. I've got some people who have been reading some books, and there are some books that I could talk a great deal about, and they're very wonderful. But the concept of reincarnation keeps coming up, and I was wondering if you could extol on that.
Oh, my goodness. Reincarnation. Reincarnation. Yes. To incarnate is to become carnate, to become physical. So reincarnation means to, when this body doesn't work anymore, catch a new one. And that's what it's about. Reincarnation is an interesting theory, just like purgatory is an interesting theory. The Roman Catholic Church declared the doctrine of purgatory, which I totally agree with. I think purgatory is a great doctrine, but nobody understands it. You know, we seem to understand it as kind of a mini hell where we go and suffer and work out our sins for a little while. We don't stay there forever and ever and ever, but for a little while. But that's not the case. The doctrine of purgatory expresses the need for further perfecting of our true selves, our soul, our spiritual nature. The doctrine of purgatory is not really well defined. It just says, hey, there's got to be some way, because, you know, a lot of us are wild slobs, and in one lifetime we can't end up with enough real experience in doing what Jesus Christ and what God expects of us. So we have to have some way of perfecting ourselves, of getting rid of the crap and developing more appropriateness in our behavior and a more acute and well-rounded love of God and those kinds of things. So one of the theories is, hey, we get it by coming back. And then there's an extreme theory that we have to experience all forms of life, or many forms of life, so that we can really encompass life. And what does that mean? Well, it means I got to live as a human being. I've got to experience what a human being experiences. I got to live as a dog. I need to know what a dog experiences. I need to know what a bird experiences. I need to know what a fish experiences. I need to know what an abema, what is it called? Abema? I don't know. Amoeba. Yeah, thank you. God bless you. I need to know all these things. So I have to go through this process of experiencing these different things. Well, you know what? I'm not interested in trying to get specific about any of these things. There is a possibility that we come back and learn and become more perfect, so to say. Hey, that's a real possibility. And I can live with that. Anybody can live with that. I think we have to look at things of faith as a possibility. And you know what? One great professor I had, a great guest lecturer in Scripture, said to me, who eventually became Pope. He said to me, Donald, I want you to know you must always remain humble, and I will tell you how to remain humble. And I said, okay, I'm ready. He said, always remember that what you believe may not be so. Always remember that what you believe may not be so. And that's what faith is. Faith is believing something. It's not yet experiencing the completion of the physiological and perceptive presence of something. You know, if I believe that there is a bottle of water behind me because you told me that, that's my opinion. I'm believing that, and I'm going on and I'm thinking, wow, there's a bottle of water behind me. But not until I turn around and see the water, touch the water, taste the water, know physically, because I've confirmed that opinion. I've confirmed it by my senses confirming the reality that that water is behind me. And that's what our faith is all about. It's an opinion. And we need...
the evidence of things unseen and yet to come.
Amen. So we need to really be very aware of that. And I honor your opinion, and you honor my opinion. And I have to be very proud and probably very stupid if I condemn you for what you believe, because what I believe may not be so. And I may give my life for that belief, but what you believe may not be so. So sometimes these extreme people in every religious thing. I mean, I've heard ministers condemning people to hell, eternal fire forever and ever, or forever burn you but never consume you, so you suffer for all eternity. And I think, oh Lord God, for what? You know, I think we should talk about hell one time too, because I believe there is a hell, absolutely. But I think we've done something to hell.
Well, I think it's right here on Earth. Now.
Well, there's more depth to it, and let's both get into it, because you're a great theologian and philosopher and intellectual, and you understand these things. But I think we've dealt with reincarnation. It's a possibility, and hey, I love all kinds of possibilities. I want to explore them. I want to learn all I can about them. And
I love it too, and I share what you said, and I agree with you. And it's a shame that I seem to never find a controversy with you. I just seem to find an accord which I think is something that all of us need to apply more and to be in accord with people more and to
well, we need to be careful about how we do that, but I think we owe it to each other to respect what we hold on to. Respect our beliefs. That's important, very, very important to me. You know, I mean, God, the world is a mess, and some of it is caused by religion. It's caused by our stupidity and our idiocracy in how we deal with things, you know, and it's a sign of not being well educated and not understanding reality. It's a sign of stupidity and insolence, and it's very sad, very, very sad. Well, Dr. J, I thank you for calling us in, and we're going to go on with our guests. I hope you'll enjoy our show today, Dr. J. We do have a very, very interesting guest, and Dr. Shelley is on board with us, so we'll talk to you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, and take care, and God bless you.
Oh, thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye,
Take care,
everybody.
And God bless.
Amen. Hallelujah. Okay,
Hallelujah.
Do we have Dr. Shelley on board? Hey, are you there? I cannot hear you. I cannot hear Dr. Shelley. Maybe we lost her. A light went off. Who's on board with us?
Hello?
Hi.
Dr. Jolly?
Hey, are you there?
I'm here.
I've been shrieking your
Dr. Shelley?
Yeah, that's me. I'm Dr. Jolly, you're Dr. Shelley. Together we're Shelley and Jolly. Or we're Jolly Shelley.
A happy couple.
Amen. I hope so. That's a good thing. Well, I want you to introduce our guest today and tell us a little bit about him, and let Dan speak on his own as well about what he does, because I think it's very important what you do, Dan, and I believe very strongly that we must feed our intellect. We must feed our intellect. We must put into our brain that which we want to become. And if we don't, we just become willy-nilly anything that we run across, and that's not a good thing. So, Shelley, Dr. Shelley, I turn this over to you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jolly. Well, it's my pleasure today to have a special guest on the show, Dan LaFave, and he's an amazing man. I've seen him in action. I've heard him speak, and I read his book recently, and it's filled with great information that's going to uplift everyone on the show today and send us in the right direction of our life. So he's one of my favorite guests. And talking about faith, Dr. Jolly, he has faith in a successful and fulfilling future for everyone that desires it and will put the work in towards it. So he's a very powerful person to have on the show that goes along with your belief system, too. And just to kind of give him a little bit of honor in his career, he's an expert on stepping stones to success, and he's co-authored a book of the same name with Deepak Chopra, Jack Canfield, and Dennis Watley. And he helps seasoned entrepreneurs kind of get a fresh start in their life. And he's got a really interesting story to tell about his own life and how he went from a career where he was commuting 3 hours a day and not feeling fulfilled in his purpose into stepping into something that he really enjoyed and something that's helping many, many people in their lives. So he's a top motivation mindset coach, and he's great at inspiration, and he's proven it in his life and in the lives of many people that he's helped. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show today, Dan.
Sounds good to me, Dan. Talk to us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's really an honor. Well, just before we get started, I certainly would like to make a promise because, everybody likes to get something right. So today I'm going to make a promise that I'm going to deliver at least 2 key ideas that can be applied to your lives. And so I will promise to provide you with that, and at the end I have a nice surprise. So if you hang on to the end of the show, you'll be able to take something away with you and put it into practice. So to answer your question, Dr. Shelley, with respect to where I've come from, I started off, getting fired. Actually, that was my catalyst. I got fired from a corporate job, and that sort of set me on a path. And I went seeking, a different path, thinking about what I could do with my life differently other than getting another job. And a friend gave me a small booklet that was that said the 10 Scrolls by Ogmundino. And Ogmundino was a great author. You might have read his books. He has The World's Greatest Salesman and some other books. And he was also the editor of Success magazine many years ago. But it led me on the path to finding out who Augmendino was, and then to Dave Blanchard, who's the CEO of Augmendino. And I was traveling through Utah, and as just through the chain of events, I emailed Dave, and because I had bought some of his books and got some of his coaching, and then Dave invited me to his house, of all things. So I got to meet this gentleman, and that meeting was very strategic in the development of my ability to teach and coach. And he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he said, "You make a good coach." And we kind of went on that path for a little while, but then Dave got busy and we didn't reconnect. But I did get led to Bob Proctor, who most of you know. Do you know Bob Proctor from The Secret? And
I do. I know all these people. I know of them. I've been with I've looked at his stuff for years and years, and he's motivated me and helped me and pushed me in the butt. This is the food of progress, the food of success. We need to assimilate it, make it part of our cellular being, and act on it, and our lives will change.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just comment on Augmendino's work, 10 Scrolls. It's a little booklet, but it's a real practice of repetition and persistence and willpower. And, the booklet has scrolls in it, which are about a 5-minute read. And the objective is to read those scrolls 3 times a day, at least once out loud, every day for 30 days. So one scroll, 30 days, 90 times, right? And then the next scroll, another 30 days, 90 times. 10 months, 10 scrolls. And in those scrolls, though, where there's little phrases, and I won't tell you all of them, but they're stuck in my subconscious mind now because I read them over and over again, which is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. I will multiply my value 100-fold. I will act now. These are some of the little phrases that were embedded throughout. And so great practice, but it was teaching repetition, and that's one of the ways to train our mind is repetition. So.
That's great. I wonder if we could put a link to that on my website. We have kind of a link down that we have on my website to different information. So maybe we can put some of your information on, maybe a link to some of the scrolls to help our listeners.
Oh, sure, absolutely. It's an amazing practice.
So let's go back to Stepping Stones for Success. What is that? And how can we apply that in our life? What's that program about?
Well, the Stepping Stones to Success is the book that I've co-authored with some amazing authors. And Jack Canfield, I was with him recently. We had dinner a few weeks ago, and it was phenomenal to sit and speak with him. But the Stepping Stones to Success is a number of experts sharing their expertise, their experiences, and their trials and tribulations in terms of their path to success, because there are universal laws that govern people's success, and we don't really recognize it that way. We just look at others and we say, "Oh, they're lucky," or they're just they're gifted. They had good parents or a good mentor or something, right? But that's not the case. There's a lot of people that go from rags to riches, and they didn't have anything going for them. They just figured it out. They did a lot of work, is what they did, because there's a rite of passage to success, and everybody has to sort of pay their dues. So Stepping Stones to Success is a great resource for that kind of information. And my particular section is all about creating success from the inside out, because I focus on mindset. My biased opinion is that if you don't have mindset, you really don't have anything at all, because your outside world reflects your inside. Your environment is a mirror, if you will, of what's going on in your mind, and it takes a real devotion and practice to manage and control your thoughts and your emotions, so that you don't run off on a tangent, and your paradigms creep in, and then you're creating a rhythm or a pattern or a way of thinking that doesn't actually produce the results you want. And we don't think of it too heavily, but we should, because repeating those kinds of thoughts over and over again produces the same results, and that's the definition of insanity, right? So. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right. They're trying the same thing.
Oh no, go ahead, Shelley. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Dr. Jolly. Go ahead.
Well, I hear you saying stuff, that reminds me that that's the way life is. You know, if you want to dig a hole, you got to find a place to dig a hole. You got to have a shovel, and you got to have the common sense to start digging and keep digging until the hole is deep enough. And if you don't do that, if you don't have that attitude of doing it and then you don't do it, you don't act on it, nothing happens. And you've got to do that with anything, and you have to feed yourself the things that you need in order to do it. It's somewhat like our physiology. It's like our mentality. If we want to be educated in a certain way, we have to follow the principles of learning and growing and testing our knowledge and using our knowledge. And success is the same way. And there's magic that goes on with our body and our soul and our spirit and information that we assimilate. And how, if we repeat things, as you told us before, how we repeat things, they become a true part of who we are. It's habituation. If you don't sit at practice the piano, you'll never learn how to play the piano. You have to do it. And so what you say is magnificent. And I want to come up with some way where we can motivate some people to want to do better than instead of being negative. I'm surrounded by negative people, and I want to shove them off the cliff. I lose my patience with them, and I try so hard to motivate them and tell them, you've got to fill your mind, your soul, your spirit with positive things. You will become positive. You will change your life. And all they do is bitch and moan and whine about everything. So how do we deal with that?
Well, I have a kind of a perspective that I've taken, and it's based on research. So I'm not just kind of haphazardly doing it. But I'll say there was a time in my life when I did kind of look outside of myself and wonder why people didn't just change, or if I told them to change, or I reflected back to them what they were doing, why didn't they change? Well, today I understand that they're repeating habits, the habits that they've learned at a young age, and they're just repeating those habits without much thought.
Well, it's kind of like an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's the same principle. They're addicted to that behavior. And you know what? We're addicted to something, too. It's called radio station, and we got to take a break. So don't forget where we were. It's time for us to take a quick break. This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA Radio, 1050 on your AM radio dial, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Behind on your payments or barely making minimums? Do your massive interest payments have you running like mad in circles? How long can you keep it up? Stop running. Let the Thomas & Law Group carefully plan your escape. The Thomas & Law Group has proven itself for over 18 solid years, helping thousands of people like you and me reclaim our financial future. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and offices in all 50 states. And the best part? There are no upfront fees at all. You won't pay a dime until the job's done. No upfront costs, no monthly fees, no banking fees. No other law firm does that. I'm a paid spokesperson, not a lawyer, and every case is different. But really, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, call the Thomas & Law Group right away for a free, no-obligation consult with a trained legal analyst at 800-460-9790. Call now because you're tired of running in circles. 800-460-9790. 800-460-9790.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy has only lately begun to gain recognition for treatment of chronic degenerative health problems, including stroke, diabetic ulcers, wound healing, brain injury, and many other disorders. Whenever blood flow and oxygen delivery to vital organs is reduced, healing can potentially be aided with hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Are you a candidate for hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Contact Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel, PhD, for a free consultation and see if this groundbreaking therapy can help you. Mention KCAA and get a free gift. Call toll-free 1-877-423-7986. That's 1-877-423-7986.
Or go to hyperbaric-solutions.com. That's www.hyperbaric-solutions.com.
Call toll-free right now, 1-877-423-7986. Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-643-9406. That's 1-800-643-9406. Again, 1-800-643-9406. Call now.
Welcome back to What's It All About? And I just got the finger, which means that it's time to start. It's the index finger, though. Remember, when I say I get the finger, it's the index finger that goes down and says you're on the air. So, Dr. Shelley, we're back on the air, so let's go for it.
Let's go for it. You know, it was interesting, too, in talking about that, like, what can we do to change, and talking about people's attitudes and our own attitudes. And I like what Dan was saying in his book. He's kind of saying, like, what you're holding inside is kind of reflected outside of you, too. We really need to work from the inside out. And this is kind of a profound statement that I found helpful in reading your book, Dan. And you were saying, you know, when you work from your higher nature from the inside out versus a lower nature from the outside in is the secret to success. So, you know, really kind of coming inside ourselves and, you know, kind of becoming all of that divine wisdom and divine love and life purpose, you know, things that we can do that bless ourselves and other people and provide some kind of loving service to others. And, you know, that's really a profound statement right there, working from the inside out versus the outside in. So that's, you know, maybe we can get on track, you know, kind of in aligning ourselves to how to produce this kind of work in our life. And maybe we can talk a little bit about, you know, controlling these aspects in our life and kind of cultivating a new perception of ourselves so that we can make a change, because it's not always easy to make a change. Like Dr. Jolly suggested, some people get in a rut and, you know, it's hard for them to even see themselves in their highest light, in their highest service, in their highest idealism, and a healthy idealism. So maybe you can help us, you know, talk about what are the 5 F's in success, and what can we do to kind of cultivate that within ourselves to help us make the first step towards the positive changes.
Well, that's very important. It's very important, and we need to do it. It's like we really need to do it. If we don't make commitments to make life work, life can be a bitch. So, Dan, you got some answers, so we need to hear them.
Well, certainly. Well, let me comment first on outside in versus inside out. The outside in is all about stuff coming through our senses. You know, we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell, and we have stuff coming in all the time, as we know, all day long. It's billions of bits of information, and you know, it's what we do with that. So that's our conscious mind. We have flow coming in all the time, and if you look at the results, behaviors, and actions in terms of what area they come from, it's not the conscious mind where the inflow is coming in. It's actually the subconscious mind, which is like the hard drive, you know, where all the stored information is and where we draw from resources and memories and experiences. And that's where we're missing the boat, because that's kind of a hidden aspect of ourselves. And, we have to plug stuff into that subconscious mind, because that's 96 to 98% of our results, behaviors, and actions. And so it's not something that's really normal to think about, because we just think we have a mind, and stuff goes in, stuff comes out, and we just operate on a daily basis that way. But tying what you were saying into this conversation, Dr. Jolly, about having people around you that aren't cooperating or aren't pleasant, maybe to be around. It's like watching. I attribute it to like watching television. If we're watching a program we don't like, we just turn it off or we change the channel. Now, we don't do that with people around us, but maybe sometimes we should. And then the other aspect is, if we have things going on in our environment that we don't like, the best way to change it is to work on ourselves and teach others by experiential evidence, right? So,
well, we have to do that if we want something to happen. You know, my story is a very interesting story. I grew up in a very wealthy family. I was given a lot of privileges, etc. But I didn't have what it really took to do what I ended up wanting to do. I didn't have it. And I didn't get involved in my family's business. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be somebody's son or somebody's grandson. I wanted to be me, who I am. But one thing that helped my life, you remember Earl Nightingale?
Absolutely. He's
Earl
one of Bob's
Nightingale,
mentors.
world's most listened to man on radio, and he had these little vignette shows. They were only 5 minutes long. 5 minutes long. And they played, and I listened to them. And I listened and listened and listened, and I wrote to him, and I said, I want more of your stuff because those 5 minutes weren't enough for me. So he sent me a box of these LP records, and each one had 7 shows on it, and less room for commercials. It was a very interesting thing because it had all these shows on one record, and you had to pick it up in time if it was on the radio, so you wouldn't go into the next one. And I listened and listened and listened and listened and listened, and I found that I was becoming what he was talking about, and I was starting to act that way. It became who I was, and it changed my perspective. It changed my life entirely and completely, and as a result, I lived an upside-down life. I was very successful when I was young. Very young. I became a high-level banking executive when I should never have become a high banking level executive. But I did, and it was because of my attitude. It was because what if he taught us in all those radio shows over and over and over again. And I ended up meeting Mr. Nightingale and invited him out from Chicago, and I made an offer to buy his company through our bank holding company, and he changed my life, totally changed my life. And the only way it happened was those tidbits of information constantly getting embedded in my mind. And that's what you're saying. Give us the good stuff. It will become part of us like food becomes cellular. It's the same thing. And I'm all for it, and I just want to I want to shake people to believe that this is what works. Now I'll shut up.
Well, just to comment on what you were saying, it's all based on the programming of the mind at an early age, 0 to 7 years old, because that's when the subconscious mind is pretty much wide open and everything's going in, and then the reasoning faculty steps in or starts operating at about age 7. And so, our lives are almost, they're habitual repetition of everything that happened during that period of time. And, and we have what's called habit gravity, which is like a tether. And every time you go to change that habit, that tether is pulling on you and keeping you where you are like an anchor. And you need a bit of an escape velocity, which is what you got from Earl. He was giving you these bits of information which you were plugging into your mind, and from a neuroscience perspective, you were nourishing your neurons with ideas that would change your life. And you said it's upside down, but maybe it's right side up.
Well, what happened is I started acting out. I started acting out what he was talking about, what he was teaching. And I bought some of the programs they have. I mean, they went on, rather than the radio was a start for them, but they went on to develop programs, and they changed lives. I see them changing lives. And it was just amazing to me. And I started doing that. I started teaching. I taught for the Institute of Financial Education, and I was professor of the year for so many years because my people were starting to respond and be positive and grow and get promotions, and it was just too good to be true. And I want to share this with people. I want people to understand that there are lots of tools they can use to come out of the humdrum, but you've got to start practicing what you learn, and it will change your life, and it changes the lives of people around you. It's absolutely magnificent. I had a series of lectures I gave on Saturday, and I had people that I had in my programs 30 years ago who came up to me. I mean, lots of them. and said, "Oh my God, if it weren't for what you did or didn't do or said or didn't do or forced me to go to this program and forced me into that, I never would have become what I am today." And I asked one woman, I said, "Well, what are you?" She says, "I'm the regional vice president for all of Southern California." And she said her bank was a major bank, one of the biggest banks in the country. And she was a janitor in our holding company. And I told all the women, I said, "We don't have enough women managers. I want you women to start deciding what you want to be and let us know. Personnel is going to cooperate. They're going to set you up to learn. We'll send you to school." And I transformed our entire banking institution to about 35% women executives from 2% that way. But I gave them the opportunity, and then they did it. See, that's what they have to do. They did the right thing. They learned the techniques. They learned what you're teaching. Now, how can we share with the people that are listening to us today what you're teaching? How can we share with them? You must have websites. You must have information and ways for people to tie into it. Can you give us that?
Well, absolutely. And my book, Stepping Stones to Success, I'm happy to give it to your listeners as a PDF and a free download. So I have that on my website, which is danlefebvre.coaching.com. So DANLEFAVE coaching.com. And they can just go there, enter their information, download it immediately, and read that information. Chapter 16 is obviously the best one, in my opinion, because it's mine. But that's one resource there, and I'm happy to share other resources with them. In addition to that, I actually have a self-analysis questionnaire that I provide them, which will stimulate their minds to get them thinking along a different path.
Do you have some programs or seminars or anything that you do?
Yes, I have a couple of programs. One of them is called Thinking into Results, and it's a coaching program. So it's 24 weeks long. So it's all about changing mindset and changing paradigms.
Hey, where are you physically?
I am physically in Toronto, Canada.
Okay. How could you, if I took somebody and said, take this person and help them make over and go from ashes to whatever, you could help them?
Oh, absolutely. It's a process, right? And it all depends on what their focus is and where they're going. In my work, I work with entrepreneurs just because that's where my sweet spot is in my experience. And like you, I started early on in business, and I managed multi-millions of dollars in corporations. So that's where I can really excel because I work well with people who are really driven and focused and take initiative and have something they want to do. So, but in terms of other work that I do and other programs I have a new one that's called Rich Mindset Secrets Revealed, and it's all about money paradigms and all about shifting that.
Well, we need that. People are they're crazy. They don't know how to deal with money. They don't know how to deal with money at all. And I watch people. I have one individual that I saw 5 years ago. No, less than that. 3.5 years ago, was doing manual labor, making about $1,000 a month when he could find work. And he was always broke. Of course you're going to be broke when you make that much money. Now he's making $5,000 a month, and he's still broke because he never learned the principle of how to deal with money. It's when you get a little more money, you start looking, how can I spend it? How can I spend it? Instead of how can I make it work for me? How can I save it? How can I make it powerful for me? We have to change the mindset. And that's what I'm interested in doing. I have a couple people I would hire you to help, and so I got to get with you on that.
Certainly, and
I'd love to try that. I'd love to try that program, Dan. The 24-week program sounds awesome. So, kind of in going back to your programs and helping people, entrepreneurs, like say we have many talents and we're trying to kind of shape our future. Like, how can you help us take the appropriate steps to kind of getting our goals to be more concrete? How can we know that what's in our heart is going to align to, a very valuable service that someone will pay good money for, and also, help us feel happy and fulfilled in what we're offering with our time?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no direct path to achieving your goals, or even to having something that you want, because often it's a bit of a stepping stone process, right? So it's, but in terms of how to make that happen, in the end, it's all about developing rituals and patterns and thought patterns, and having control over your emotions and control over your thoughts. And it doesn't happen overnight because that takes practice. It's like anything else. You have to nourish certain aspects of the mind and the higher faculties, which I mentioned in my book, which are perception, will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. That's higher nature or higher faculties, like mental muscles. So if you go to the gym to strengthen your physical muscles, there are mental muscles that can be strengthened at the same time, and not many people devote too much time to that. So if they just shifted a little bit in that direction and made more effective decisions, I have a 4-point process for decision making, which is pretty straightforward, and if you use it, you make decisions more effective, and then you're not ambivalent and indecisive and creating a wedge in your mind with respect to what you want or don't want. Because if you don't decide what you want, then generally you get what you don't want, and by nature. So
right, that's true. That is that the law of cause and effect?
It is. I mean, if you don't make a decision, somebody makes one for you. So,
I'd like to make a comment here, Dan. You're talking about something that is real, and I am beyond believing that it works. I know that these things work. I have confirmed that by developing the observation to be able to see what's going on and see the results. And I think that's a wonderful thing. But most people don't understand the principle is when you plant a seed, you are then obligated to water the seed, to nurture the seed, to fertilize the seed, to provide an environment where the seed will continue to grow and do what it's supposed to do. And then in time, as you cooperate with it, you develop a beautiful plant that will continue to give and give forth and make new seeds and grow and propagate and do magnificent things. And that's what you're saying people can do, but they got to realize it's got to be done by them, using the gift of time and their energy and their skills, what they learn from you, what they learn from others, and let time take its place in the whole thing. Everybody wants everything now, and it's not now. It's not going to happen now. But when your attitude starts to change, then things really do change in your life, and you begin to feel it. And I wish there was some way we could get that point out to people so that they would be motivated to stick with what they start. Most of them quit. At least that's in my estimation and my observation. Anyway, I'm done now.
Well, and you mentioned about planting seeds, and the flip side to seeds is weeds, right? And I call habits weeds, especially habits that you don't want. And we know weeds, we don't need to water them. They don't need to be cared for. They just grow and grow and grow. But when you start planting flowers, plant seeds of things that you like, then they will start to germinate. But you do need to water them. You do need to nurture them, and you do need to create new habits. And guess what? Once you create new habits that basically go in the opposite direction of the habits that you don't like, as long as you persist in that direction, you will nurture them enough to the point where the old habits won't be nurtured. They'll kind of shrivel up. They won't die, but they'll shrivel up. And you have to keep on that same path of nurturing the seeds that you planted. Otherwise, the other ones will come back. And the one thing that stands out for me that gets people started on this path is when their pain is big enough. The pain has to be big enough for them to take action, because people do move away from pain 10 times more than they do, move to pleasure. So even though you and I we're all talking here about, what people can have and the type of lifestyles they can have and feel good and feel happy and live full and happy lives, that's probably not motivational enough for them or motivating enough. They need to have pain to push them away so that they will take the action to move.
Amen.
Pleasure Island,
That's so true, because friction causes growth. If we look at an oyster, it's so apparent in that, like, we come up against a lot of friction in life, and that makes us change, and that can help us if we can look in the right direction to become something more beautiful, to become, more of what we were designed to become. It can help us in success and in other areas of our life too, just to kind of realize, there's friction in my life here and I'm willing to make a change. And like you said, how much change depends on how much friction they're up against, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. We got to give. That's a good kick in the butt, and we all need it.
And if you run into a circumstance where there's friction, let's say there's friction between two people, that could be like sandpaper on sandpaper. Well, I like the perspective, and I used to teach this to my employees when I had a corporate job. I said, why don't you become like wood and let them polish you? So don't react. Respond. Think. If you think, you respond. If you react, that's habitual. That's paradigm based. That's that's without thought. And it takes a lot of skill and resistance to react. And that's where the change happens, when you start pausing and thinking about things. How can things be different, or how can I respond differently to something instead of reacting and saying, this is the way I am. And the other thing too is about taking full responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Don't look outside of ourselves and blame others. And look at our environment, our world, and say, okay, this is something that I'm co-creating. I'm part of this, and I'm doing it through my thoughts. And if I don't take the time to think accurately, shame on me. I'm creating it. I'm a participant rather than a victim. Because that's a victim consciousness when we say, this is all happening to me. Those people are bad, and I wish they'd go away.
Hallelujah! You got it.
Yeah.
You're right on. You're right on.
How can we go from that place of, oh, I'm a victor, to, oh, I declare a victory in my life? What can we do to really declare that victory and make that positive transition, in our lives, and also in what we're reacting to around us? How can we switch around our mindset? Maybe you can give us a couple examples of that.
Well, sure. One way to do it is, let's say you keep running into a circumstance, and it has to do with other people, and it's an unpleasant circumstance. One of the effective ways that I find is to take that situation and write it out. And I might write it out the way it is at first, and then I'll turn around and on a separate sheet of paper, I'll write out how I'd like it to be. And, sort of creating a map in my mind as to how I would handle it. And maybe if it gets to a point where, it's going to cause a big argument and there's going to be fighting and animosity, how I'm going to handle it then. Maybe I excuse myself or something like that, right? So that's just an example of when we're interacting with others. So it's about really creating a roadmap just by writing things out in terms of how we would respond to something versus reacting to it. Instead of saying, this is the way I am, this is the way that I like things, this is the way I react when these circumstances happen in my life, and just mapping it out differently. And the other thing too is ask ourselves questions, because if I say, what color is the sky, everybody's thinking blue and seeing blue in their minds, a picture of it, and our subconscious mind always wants to respond to questions. So if anything, ask yourselves effective questions. If you find you're not getting what you want, ask questions, because when you ask questions, it stimulates your mind to think in the direction you want to go in, rather than getting all upset and aggravated, because that just creates a negative vibration, and nothing good can come of that. It just creates more of that. It's like a prayer for more stuff of that nature, and that's why people who complain all the time get more complaints, and have people who complain around them and who are disgruntled and upset and honking their horns.
Well, it's like mold. It's like fungus. And it just grows and grows and gets worse and worse unless we cut it out and start all over again. We got 5 more minutes, actually 4.5 more minutes. So let's kind of figure out what we want to do to wrap it up. Shelley, do you have some prime questions that you want to ask before we have to close?
Yeah, I do. I just was focusing on Dan's chapter in the book, and there's some beautiful thoughts in here, maybe to just put out some of them, and then we'll let Dan kind of close it up. But, these are just ideas to kind of feed and nurture us right now, and this is just something beautiful to share from Dan's book. So I hope you don't mind, Dan, but I just took some good notes that I liked.
Let's do it, because we're running out of time.
But, this is just something for us to think about. So success is the progressive realizations of a worthy ideal. So that's from Earl Nightingale. So you probably have that one in your mind. And just kind of, let the audience kind of think about that. Like, what is the worthy ideal, that I want to express in my life? And then also, really just wondering about how can we do what we love to attract our deepest desires. And maybe we can touch on, the practice of visualization or believing that we're worthy. I know Dan is really good at believing I'm worthy of everything that the universe and God has to offer me, and I'm worthy of that. So maybe we can touch on that a bit, Dan.
Well, sure. We're all worthy. I mean, we've been planted here for some purpose, and actually, I think it's our task to figure out what that purpose is. And even from my book, I have a quote in there, that God's gift to us is more talent and ability than we can use in our lifetime, and our gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability. So our worthy ideal is, you might call it a goal, you might call it, your ultimate achievement, but the fact of the matter is, we have something inside of us that we like to do, and it's not a hobby. It's something that we would do for our life. In fact, I often ask folks that I meet, would you ever retire from what you're doing? And if they say, oh, yeah, absolutely, I can't wait, or whatever, then I say, that's not what you don't love what you're doing. If you would retire, if you would stop what you're doing, you don't love it. You would do it right until the end of time, until you couldn't do it anymore. If you like speaking, you'd die on stage, maybe. You should go right to the nth degree and enjoy what you're doing and express yourself. And it may not be every day of the week, but that's what a worthy ideal is. It's something that we really are passionate about, we feel good about, and it's not work. It's fun.
Well, on that thought, natural. I think we should start to wrap up. That is a very magnificent and important principle. Very, very important. It's in my guttural language. It's get off your butt and do it. Be committed and do it. Without the action, nothing will happen. And as far as purpose goes, that's a very interesting thing. I wish we had time to deal with purpose, but we need to do it on another show. We have about another minute and a half left. So any one of you want to say a last 20-second goodbye or wrap it up or whatever?
Dan, why don't you put your website out there one more time for people that maybe have a pen and paper there?
Absolutely. Well, I have more than one, but the one that they can get the book on is Dan Lefebvre Coaching. So DANLEFAVE coaching.com, and they can grab my book there and enjoy it, and they can interact with me. And if they'd like more information about me and what I do, my programs, they can go to danlefebvre.com and check out information.
Okay,
there.
spell it for us again.
Absolutely. DANLEFAVE.com, and I have videos and resources on there as well about self-image and decision making and some of the core things that are just not taught in school or in life. And I think they're just basic principles that everybody should have, but it's not being taught.
Okay, good. I need to get these resources for some of my people, so I will be one of your customers, and then I want to call you and talk to you about some other things. Dr. Shelley, thank you very much for coordinating and inviting and being with us on the air. I appreciate it. And Dan, God bless you and all of your work, and come see us again in 2 or 3 months, all right?
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you. God bless you. And
yeah, you can call Shelley and you guys can set another time, and we'll be outrageous. We'll be outrageously pursuing the wonder of improvement, growth, and progress. That's what we need to do. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up and tell everybody that it's just been a joy and a privilege being with you. Remember, you are God's greatest creation. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit, and do what you need to do. We are beautiful, most incredible beings, and we got to take care of ourselves. So this is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA 1050 on your AM radio dial, saying God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you again next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
I'm Tanya Hansen, CNBC Radio. Wall Street's been knocked around today amid disappointing jobs data, and the Fed chair's comments that stock valuations are generally quite high. Janet Yellen said stability risks remained in check, but the Fed is keeping a close eye on the issue. The Dow is down 123, the Nasdaq is off 30. The FAA plans to work with Precision Hawk and BNSF Railway to test drones that can fly beyond an operator's line of sight. The separate partnerships are a potential milestone in developing unmanned aircraft for a variety of business applications. Drug maker Acorn is asking states to return supplies of the company's products that could be used for lethal injection, saying it strongly objects to the drugs being used for capital punishment. The chairwoman of the FDIC during the 2008 financial crisis has been named president of Washington College in Maryland. Sheila Bair will be the first female president of the school since its founding in 1782. Tanya Hansen, CNBC Radio.
There is something about the road that beckons, that invites us to pack up the family and leave the world behind. And there is something about an industry-leading unlimited mileage warranty on a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz that gives us the freedom to do exactly that. You take to the highway, rack up the miles for up to 3 years, and drive with the assurance that your Mercedes-Benz is covered. You have the security of being in a car that has been certified to Mercedes-Benz standards, while you enjoy a carefree ownership experience for miles and miles. But while the mileage is unlimited, your time to take advantage of our certified pre-owned sales event is not.
Now through June 1st, you can also receive complimentary prepaid maintenance and your first 2 months payments on us on select models, plus 3 months of Sirius XM satellite radio.
So hurry into your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer today and see why we say the odometer is there to record the memories.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for complete details and limitations on certified pre-owned warranties.
It's a couple minutes after the hour. I'm Di Rice with the latest in local news on KCAA 1050 AM. A woman died in a house fire yesterday in Murrieta. A man living in the home had escaped before the fire and police crews arrived with minor injuries. He was treated at a nearby hospital for smoke inhalation. The woman was trapped on the second floor of the home. The relationship between the man and woman is unknown at this time. While firefighters don't expect foul play, they haven't ruled it out either. A 21-year-old Harupa Valley resident was arrested on grand theft charges at a Lions Club International facility in Harupa. Among items stolen were approximately 500 pairs of prescription eyeglasses that were set to be donated to underprivileged people in South America. The suspect was identified as Jonathan William Earl Pointer. He was arrested at his home, where investigators recovered about 24 pair of the 500 missing eyeglasses. And if you're in need of a job, Hire Live Incorporated will be holding a career fair in the Inland Empire tomorrow. It will take place from 9 in the morning until 12:30 at the Doubletree Hotel in Ontario. Again, that